Salmon spawn in the main river. The suin mainly spawn up little tributaries. And nearly all of the little tributaries with us got a big farm at the top of it. So, or a sewerage works.
Water is blue gold, as they increasingly say. Water in the 21st century is likely to be the kind of source of conflict in human societies that oil was in the 20th century. It's so precious.
But it is the numbers game that they're playing, you know. My mother always had the effect of saying, you know, you're better off keeping half as many and doing them twice as well. Is it better to have, you know, a 20% profit on 100 cows or 10% profit on 200 cows? If you can manage them, it's easier on everyone.
Pembrokeshire is European dairy capital. There's more dairy cows per acre hectare around here than there is than anywhere else in Europe.
I'd like to see the natural resources Wales be fit for purpose. They're not fit for purpose because they're not. They've always said we prefer to use a carrot, not a stick. Until the crime of polluting the river is more expensive, well, they're just going to carry on and do it. It's only money.
They say there's not any proof. It just seems strange how it coincides with more dairy farms and less fish. When they clean their tankers out with detergents or some sort of cleaning material, that has gone into the stream just behind a couple of times and totally wiped out everything. Even like the small, not just the fish, the small bugs, the weed doesn't grow, and they get this like brown, slimy algae growing in.
Civilizations overextended themselves. They cut down their forests, they overexploited their water, they failed to understand that they must have an accommodation on the basis that the natural world surrounding them doesn't grow. In our present world, I mean, we're accustomed to think that everything will continue to grow. The water is a finite resource. We must take no more from it than nature replenishes it by.
From here down, more or less, that was all weed. I'm going back 20, 30 years. The floods have scoured it out. The weed is just starting to grow now, but that was more or less a carpet of white, the flowers. It was beautiful. I remember my first bite, my father said, "You've got a bite." And I just went, whew, and yanked it clean over my head. It's scary, really, when you think, if it declines anymore, what will the rivers be like? Years ago, you would see every stone, nearly every stone, but you can't now. It just seems to be this greeny colour all the time. You'd walk up and all you'd see is fish rising, taking fly. How many have we seen? 2? They've got to have water to run. They got to have that fresh water, that smell of fresh water. The last 20 years, it's really declined. It's not so much climate change, there's been a lot of intense farming. You know, there's pollutions. It takes about 3 years for a major pollution to come to court.
You know, if farmers don't speak up, then how are people meant to know? Basically, every farm should store all of the nutrient over the winter and then spread it when it's ideal spreading conditions. The only thing which probably stops that is excessively high rainfall and your nutrient stores filling up more than you would ever expect them to.
As a consumer, we're not paying enough to the farmer for them to farm less intensively. The polluter is actually us, because we're the ones that are demanding food at those prices, and we don't want to pay more for the food that we buy at the supermarket.
So dairy farming lends itself to grassland, and grassland is fantastic for rivers. really, because it just locks in nutrients. It doesn't let the soil go anywhere. It just is inefficient financially to pollute. It really is. Like you just, as a dairy farmer or as any farmer, you don't want to waste nutrients because every nutrient that leaves is a cost.
We're almost the only country in the world that's actually sold off the entire system to the private companies. What that means is that water companies are now owned by a variety of private investors from all around the world who basically running it as a profitable business.
How much water we take out of the tap, what we flush down our toilet, what we choose to buy. Everything in a small way has cumulatively a big impact on the environment. And to get out of the mess that we're in, either as taxpayers or water bill payers, we are going to be paying for the clean-up.
This is the level of sewage in rivers which the private companies find profitable. Cleaning it up further is not. They themselves have economic incentives not to invest. £66 billion. Why have they built up that amount? Basically, they built it up in order to pay themselves dividends. The private companies are not the kind of vehicle that can respond to that kind of public care.
It's as if certain people, reminds me a bit of Boris Johnson and Trump, as if they think they get so high they can be untouchable.
"40 boats with 40 nets in the river. Our shoal herrings would sit on the bottom like a mountain, mate. It would be like just a mountain of fish. And this river, it's like a washing machine. You've got a 7.5 metre tide that comes through up to here. That runs at 8 knots, mate. So when it comes up and it kind of brings all that water up, it brings everything down with it. Flushes, it is like a washing machine. It flushes itself out. But when they get a spillage of milk or raw sewage in the water, that's it. It's mate. You know, we don't know how many salmon par that's taken away, how many trout is taken away in the river. It's only at the precipice, mate, when you think everything's going to fail, right, is when people will want to change. And until then, we're still going to be a greedy Western culture, mate, that want everybody else to change for us, and we won't change for anybody.
We're mucking about with this delicate mechanism to our peril and to the peril of the rest of the environment. You get this sort of parcel of water that comes down the estuary and then goes back up the estuary and then goes back down the estuary. So it does this. What's happening now is that the seas are struggling to cope, so you're getting ocean acidification. People now expect to be able to go wild swimming. We used to call it swimming when I was a kid. Wild swimming. Biological contaminants and chemical contaminants in freshwater systems are so high. No way. The NRW staff are embarrassed to go out and meet the public because you know that the senior management are playing the political game, and if you insist on taking a farmer or taking the water company to court, you won't be supported. So But it's this sort of almost strip mining of the assets that we've got. It's like, oh no, quick, let's get as much out of this land as we possibly can. Let's get as much out of these crops, out of these animals, out of this system, this water system, this sewage system, because we've got shareholders breathing down our neck. And go hang future generations. I'm sure they'll come up with something cunning to sort it all out. There's going to be a point where they can't sort it out anymore.